So welcome everyone. Today's LinkedIn Live is on segregation of duties, or S.o.D. So to help explain what S.o.D means and why it is important, we have the CEO of HiNoon Consulting and cyber and governance expert, Shannon Noonan. Hi, Shannon.
Hi, everybody.
So first, Shannon, please give the audience some more background on you and your experience in the cybersecurity and GRC world.
I have over 20 years of experience in the GRC world, probably the last 15 years in cybersecurity, working with organizations to make sure they've got proper segregation of duties controls in place and/or compensating controls to make sure they're doing what they need to do correctly.
Perfect. So let's jump into it. So what does S.o.D mean to you in the context of cybersecurity and compliance?
So cybersecurity and compliance, S.o.D doesn't really have any difference whether it's finance, networking, or security. It means someone has too much access to an environment and can do more than one thing that they should not do.
And what are the regulations and the security implications when S.o.D is not enforced?
So when S.o.D is not enforced, you can have inappropriate activity happening in the environment. So someone can approve and grant access to an environment. Someone can test, validate, and deploy a change in the environment. Someone can circumvent security controls and change configurations. You have lots of different things happening if you have segregation of duties conflicts occurring.
And let me just add one thing, Shannon. So when we say segregation of duties, is that also another way of saying basically make sure you're enforcing the principle of least privilege?
Correct, least privilege. But even least privilege can sometimes have an S.o.D conflict depending on if you have a lean team. So it's just all about, do you have the right controls in place to make sure you're detecting any inappropriate activity in the environment?
So isn't the failure to implement S.o.D one of the big reasons behind fraud and insider theft?
It is a key area because individuals can circumvent process. So you can have fraud on the financial side if they have the ability to create a vendor and pay a vendor. So how do you restrict someone from paying themselves? If you have the ability to make updates and configurations to the environment, how do you prevent vulnerabilities from happening in the environment? So on and so forth. So it is key to either have segregation of duties in place or to have compensating controls in place to verify that nothing inappropriate is happening.
So what are the compliance measures, and do they call out for S.o.D?
Compliance measures, it's usually your access controls that are the key areas to making sure nothing bad is happening or to restrict access to key areas. So we want to make sure that only, as Garrett said, least privilege is in place and only key people have access to data, financials, security requirements, so on and so forth.
So what compensating controls do enterprises try to enforce S.o.D with, and do they work?
They work, but they're called detective controls, and those are usually some form of change log review, configuration reviews. It's all after the fact, so it's not actively occurring, or as you would call it, a preventive control. So when you have segregation duties in place, you're preventing from individuals from being able to do certain aspects versus detecting it after the fact and reviewing to make sure they didn't do anything.
So Garrett, what does YouAttest? Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, Shannon, does that also go for these compensating controls? What are people using for identity usually?
Usually, right, you restrict the access and say person A can only get X, Y, and Z, and person B can do R, S, T, U, right? So how do you make sure that one person can't do everything and that it's restricted across multiple teams? So that is your least privilege.
So is this usually manual?
It is usually manual because you're usually verifying it manually if you don't have some form of an identity management tool to make sure that only certain people have access to certain groups or areas, data, so on and so forth.
And is that working for enterprises if it's manual?
It's a lot of extra work if it's manual. A lot of extra work and hours.
So Garrett, what does YouAttest do to help with this?
It's not manual. You know, and that's the number one thing, as my buddy Kashif will be showing, right? We get it, and Shannon and I do a lot of webinars and talks together. I think I was just on there, we're talking about zero trust, and that's called traditional. The manual's traditional in there, and that's not good. As Robin, who was on the SIC squared, once said, that's death. That's like you're going to be hacked. If you're still doing your S.o.D manually, you're just asking for fraud, and that's quoting someone else. Okay, what YouAttest does is YouAttest plugs right into your identity system. Okay, you have something. You have AD, you have Azure AD, you have Okta, you have Jump Cloud, you have Ping, you have something. That's your identity enforcement point. You should be able to enforce S.o.D right there. And that's exactly what my buddy Kashif is going to be showing us, okay? That we plug right in to your existing IAM, and then you construct the rules. You know what group you have for finance. You know what group you have in sales, right, Shannon? Those two should not be in the same group. And then you construct your own S.o.D rules relevant to your enterprise. And if you need some GRC help, that's what Shannon's here for, right? Shannon, that's what you do. You say these groups should not confide. YouAttest is the tool that plugs into your IAM and then solves the S.o.D ongoing for you. Yes, that's what we do.
What about the enterprises that can't afford an entire IGA system?
Yeah, well, that's why we exist. I mean, the standard IGA system, I say the word IGA, and I was just at a conference and I say, okay, I'm going to see how many people I can make leave the room now. I'm going to say identity governance, you know, and then everyone's, oh God, I don't have time for that crap. And everyone walks out, right? That's why we invented YouAttest, to do the functionality of governance, the G of IGA, plug into what you already have, your IAM, and then implement this starting this afternoon. There's no way when you see that demo that Kashif is going to show us on a bit that you don't think, oh, I can do that in 5 minutes. I can do that in 10 minutes, and you get started. That's what we're doing. We have democratized the concept of governance on the identity products people are using today.
So Shana, do you think this is a good solution for enterprises who have an IAM but don't have S.o.D tools?
Yeah, no, it definitely never hurts to help to automate the process and using a system versus manually doing it. There's so much room for error in a manual process. You could miss it. You could not see something. Someone could be added after the fact. So when you can get a system approach, there's always benefit to it.
So the best way to see the difference is a demo. So Kashif, can you run a demo of YouAttest and its S.o.D solution?
Absolutely. And thanks, Ashley. Let me just go ahead and share my screen. Let me know you can see it.
Yep.
Great. So the interface shows, by the way, this is my tenant, YouAttest tenant integrated with my Azure AD. That's my IAM. That's my identity store for this demo. And when you have integration in place, you can run application audits, you can run group audits, you can run user audits. But the thing is, this can be Okta as well. This can be Jump Cloud or any other platform. The thing is, we let the clients decide on S.o.D rules according to their organizational structure, according to what they have in place, implemented inside the organization. So when you are running these application or group audits, before running those, you can set some S.o.D rules so that you can apply those rules to those applications and group audits. And that's what we have enabled. So you can set up application S.o.D rules. You can also set up group S.o.D rules where you just need to go in here and define what the rules should state or what do you need to see flagged inside an audit. If there is a conflict, if there is such an anomaly that you see in there, what do we do? We flag that user in there. For example, if there is a user who's part of marketing team, and he should not be there in account receivable group. So you make that rule right in here in YouAttest and just implement that rule before you are creating a group audit. So let's say I have certain groups in here that I will I would like to say, well, okay, if I'm creating a group audit of a certain group, I would like to see if those people or any of the members of that group are members of either the admin group, or you can add another rule, or that person is also a member of, let's say, a finance group. So if you can apply, and or functionality in there, these properties that if you apply and, it's going to look into both these groups. And if any user exists in both of these, it will flag the user. And you can apply the or properties just to see if the users exist on either of these groups, then he should be flagged, or those users should be flagged. So that's up to you. Which one would you like to apply here? But once you create the rule, you can also select the actions. Well, you can flag the users as highly privileged based on the mentioned rules in YouAttest campaign. And also you can assign the privileged users to a reviewer. That reviewer could be of any person within the organization. Could be a manager, it could be a group owner, it could be an application owner, or a security and a compliance person. All you have to do is just put in the email ID, and as soon as the anomalies are found, those users, the flagged users, will be assigned to that particular reviewer you've just mentioned over here. So that's what it does. Now, when you create, or you're ready to create a group audit, and you're targeting a specific group, that's where it will appear. Let me just go ahead and put a name, let's say test S.o.D. As usual, a time frame. Now, here it gives you which S.o.D. rule would you like to apply for this audit. So whatever rule you want to apply, you have saved those rules, you have saved those conditions in the S.o.D. In the S.o.D. rule page. You can apply any conditions you can define the rule with an or condition, you can define it with an and condition, and select the rule. That rule will be applied to that group audit that you are going to select. So I say, okay, I want to see the finance group and see how the members are doing in there. So that's the finance group. You can choose active, inactive, all the users. I'll just go with all. And that's it. Now, YouAttest is fetching all the information from my IAM, which is my identity store, but with the S.o.D. rule in place. It's not only looking for the finance group, it's also looking for those two groups if any of these members are part of any of those groups, right? So when I open the audit, these are the two users that are part of the other group that they shouldn't have been. So these are the ones you need to take a look into, and these have already been assigned to the person of your choice that you have selected while you were putting those conditions and making those rules. So these two people have been assigned to that particular reviewer, and now he's going to decide whether they should have access or their access should be revoked from any of those groups. That's what we have implemented in the V1, but we will keep on enhancing that according to the requirements from different clients and different people that will request us. We will keep enhancing the tool. So this is V1 of S.o.D. Garrett?
Perfect.
Great stuff there, Kashif. I'm sorry, Ashley.
No, that's okay. Thanks, Kashif. So Garrett, is this available to both customers and managed service providers as well?
Absolutely. And you know what comes with the service? Shannon, right? Because what we do is we work together. We help the managed service providers, right? Say, okay, maybe you're not comfortable with GRC. Shannon goes in, helps them understand what the gaps that their customers have, right? And then the YouAttest tool is multi-tenanted ready for the MSPs. They can come on and they can manage all their clients through a single console. All the ones that need to do this, etc. And of course, it's available for direct customers, but it's also available for the MSPs, MSSPs, and GSIs who need to be doing these user access reviews and need to be enforcing S.o.D. for their clients.
So Shannon, how can people get a hold of you?
People can reach me at sales@hntc.io.
Perfect. And then anyone else, just contact us at info@youattest.com and we'll address all your cloud and on-premise identity auditing needs. Thank you. And thank you, Shannon, for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Great stuff, team. All the best.